Hi, I'm Cameron from Smooth Digital, and welcome to Tea with Toby, the show where we ask and answer the questions playing in the minds of the care sector's business leaders. This week's episode is sponsored by the Access Group, and today we're going to be talking about all things video for care homes. So let's kick off the show with a few words from our Marketing Strategy Director here at Smooth, Toby Ali Usman.
Thank you, Cameron. And I must say, there is a little bit of glitching, so just bear with us if that does happen today. So, yes, like Cameron mentioned, this show will be all around care homes, and it's all about changing the perceptions. We've got some industry experts with us today, and with that being said, I just want to sort of introduce them first before we kick off. So, I'd like to welcome Adam James and York Woodford-Smith.
Tea with Toby, 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 Toby, tea with Toby, tea with Toby.
Right, I'll jump in and introduce myself first. Thanks, Toby. Thanks very much, Cameron. Adam James of Spring Up PR, and in a nutshell, we use proven PR and marketing methods to help care operators and care homes get more inquiries and fill beds.
I'm York Woodford-Smith. I run a company called 5 on a Bike. You can ask me about the name later. I've been working with care homes for about 6 or 7 years now, to help encourage kind of the marketing processes and the sales processes within care homes. I've been producing films for about 15 years, and I've sort of formally trained in television production. I really enjoy working in care homes, working with residents. One of my favourite things to do, and just finding out what their story is.
Awesome. So before I jump into the questions, what I want to do is just spend some time setting the scene. So probably for about 8 weeks straight, whenever we turned on the news on TV, there were stories about care homes, ranging from, a rise in care home deaths to not enough PPE. And it's probably the most coverage care homes have ever received. But the negative thing is that it was 100% negative. Now, it's probably fair to say, but it's unfortunate, the general public's perception of care homes is not a good one, with some thinking care homes are not a safe place for their loved ones. But all of us know that's not true, and all of us have actually been actively involved in running sort of building confidence campaigns for care homes. So I want to actually start with yourself, York. Before we go into the actual campaigns and more questions around that, can you just talk about, you specialize in video, why is it important that care home owners and operators start thinking about video now?
So I think they should have been thinking about video a long time ago, but it's, it can feel like a complicated undertaking, video. So, in the business world, photography is an accepted thing that's done, whereas video feels like more complicated, more high risk potentially. But I think, thinking about it now is really important because people can't come and visit. And, as we understand it, the best way to sell your home and the best way to get people to come and live in your home is to show them what it's like. And it's really difficult to do that at the moment. So having a couple of different mediums of video, a couple of different formats of video will really help edge you through that process. So one group I worked with, there was some research done, and I think this is generally accepted across the care home industry, where when someone is researching a care home to put their loved ones in, as we understand it, it's normally a family member rather than the person that's actually going to be moving in. So when they're researching, they might look at 8 to 15 care homes in their local area, and then they'll choose maybe 3 to 5 to go and visit. I think that now they'll choose 1 or 2, and maybe 1. So that competition to get to be the one that the care home that they come and visit is even more difficult than it's been previously. So all of the marketing material, all of the material that shows people, builds their confidence to come for a visit in the first place is really, really important now. So I think you need to focus on how you can show people the home without them having to come and see it, so they can get a sense of the space, a sense of what it's like, a sense of what the strengths are. And you can write as much text on a website as you like, but a video shows them how, what it's like, and it gives a feeling and it's emotive. And I think that's the biggest thing that video has over kind of, text or photos, is that you can create emotion. You can show people enjoying the environment. You can show picture, bits of video of the environment which feel more genuine than a photo. You know, I think there's an understanded perception that people have that a photo can be manipulated quite strongly, and that video doesn't have that same perception. So I think having the kind of range of content for your potential customers, or the family of your potential customers to engage with, will increase the likelihood of you getting on that list of places they come visit. Because, you know, as we understand, people are just worried about visiting care homes, which if you read the newspapers, you can understand why.
So just staying on that for a bit, you mentioned a range of videos. Let's say there's someone listening to this and they now understand that now is the time to start using video. What are the different types of video that they can be using for their home?
So there's a couple of things. So we think at Five on a Bike that the strongest video is an emotive film which has the resident at the heart of it. So your residents are the best advocates of your home, and followed by the family members, you know. And we found over, you know, I must have interviewed 50, 60 residents in various different care homes, that across the board they really enjoy the process. They really like having the attention of you know, spending it, you know, a camera crew spending a day with them, you know. And it's very much, we make sure we keep it on their terms as well. So, you know, we approach each person individually. But so that's the strongest thing, is like basically a testimonial from one of your customers to say, this is what it's like here, and they will be honest about it as well. You know, we've sat and done interviews with residents where they've told us the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think, you know, sometimes addressing that, maybe you don't address that in your, you know, in your front marketing film, but, you know, it's good to give them that outlet as well. So there's a kind of an emotive case study piece which is really strong. But then I think, given the environment at the moment, you need some practical bits of content. So as someone that might be looking around for a care home, I just want to see what it looks like. I want to see the gardens. I want to see the reception area. I want to see how the reception area leads into the dining room, what the size of the dining room is like, what the staff look like, what the people that live there look like, you know, how wide are the hallways. You know, very practical kind of tour videos are really important. One client we're working with together, Toby, you know, we're making practical tour videos because people can't come and see, and they don't want a sort of random person within the home walking around with an iPad showing people things. They want to, you know, do that in a controlled way. So there's two main things. There's a practical piece of tour to show, this is what's here, this is what we have these facilities, we have a hair salon, you know, whatever it is you have in your home, to show those things in a kind of clean and honest way. And then there's an emotive video, which is more about the story of the person, you know. And when we make these emotive films, it's probably 80% about the person, and then 20% of them saying, it's great to live here, you know, because people connect with people, and ultimately that's the thing. And we've had examples where with care home groups we've worked with, where people have said, I would have never considered that brand, like full style, like that just doesn't sit with me. I don't like the look of it. But I watched the video of the resident and I wanted to meet them. And then they've gone into the home, met them, and joined the home. So, you know, you've got those, you know, and I'd love to be able to replicate that in data. Unfortunately, within care homes, the data process isn't necessarily in place in the way you need it. But a story like that, a sort of, you know, hearing from my clients that is how that works is really, really powerful. And having the salespeople within the team say, can we have more video? People always talk about it when they come and visit. They say, we saw the video, that was great. Can we meet this person? You know, it's amazing that you did that thing, you know. So I think you've got those two sort of simple bits of content: practical tour, emotive case study.
Fantastic. And we're going to touch on a bit of the case studies a little bit later. But I just want to come to yourself, Adam, as well. So I think with the way that the media have sort of been bashing care homes, I think it's fair to say, care homes need to be proactive with the positive stories that they put out as well. So during this period, can you share any sort of stories that care homes are doing to combat the negative media out there? Okay.
Look, I loved everything we were talking about in the video. It's that just off for a start. To answer your question, Toby, like right now, journalists on the regional media, which is the target media for any single care home, because that's what their audiences read, are absolutely longing to hear about positive stories from care homes right now in a way that they have never ever have done before. Now, right now is a time for you as a care home to make the local BBC, the local ITV, your local newspaper, the local BBC radio journalists your friends. They are dying to hear about the positive stories coming out from your care homes. And let me just give you some numbers here. I wrote this out the other day. Nationally, the care homes, the care sector has taken a big hit for reasons which we all are familiar with. A terrible hit. The care sector has gone through a miserable and horrible time. COVID has hit them dreadfully. And to be honest, in the height of COVID, I completely understand why any member of the public would think twice about sending their loved one to a care home. And care home owners will tell you this, because COVID did factually hit care homes in a way that was unpleasant and awful. But yeah, that's happened. That's how the national media has, I'm a former journalist, so I can understand why the national media would tell those stories. But looking at it in another perspective, as I said, right now, local journalists are dying to hear about the positive stories, and I will give you some examples, there are many, many of them, about a positive care coming from care homes. But let me give you some numbers. It is perfectly reasonable and proper for every single care home in the UK to secure at least 10 pieces of positive media exposure per home per year. So do the numbers. Got 17,000 care homes in the UK. Every single one of them, let me repeat, should be and getting at least 10 pieces of positive media exposure in the local media per year per home. That comes to 680,000 pieces of positive media exposure for care homes over the course of a year. So when you think about it in that way, in terms of the power of the regional media to promote good news stories. And let's remember, the regional media is the most trusted media in the UK, more so than the national media. The power for care homes actually, in reality, as a collective unit to promote good care stories is absolutely huge. Let me go back to your question about positive stories. So anything around providing good care during lockdown is a story that your local journalists are wanting to hear about right now. So that might be, how do you celebrate birthdays during a lockdown? How did you celebrate a VE Day during lockdown, for example? How do you continue to provide physical stimulating activities when you can't have people coming into your home? What stories of residents speaking with their families, communicating with families in a way that that's COVID appropriate? How are you enabling families to visit residents? And how are you, for example, summer houses, so some operator that we're looking at is building particular summer houses for family members to come and visit their families in the care home, so they don't have to actually go into the care home, and that's all perspex and all COVID appropriate. Your staff, let me be clear here. You're right, Toby, straight from the start you said that never before has the care sector been in the news in a negative way. At the same time, never ever ever has the public has massive empathy and sympathy for every single care worker in the UK and healthcare workers, but care workers included. They are, for the first time in history, being seen as heroes. Yeah, they have been doing amazing work, and there are many, many examples of dedicated care. So you can celebrate your care workers and what they do and how they provided care, and you will get great reaction from the media and also the public. So, for example, on Facebook, if you are promoting those stories of your great care, for example, we're talking about the media. The media is great. You will get good coverage there, but also use Facebook, for example, as a way to make sure tens of thousands of people per month are hearing about your good care, good quality. Not a few dozen, not a few hundreds, reach those big numbers. So that, in a nutshell, I think is probably how I would answer that question.
No, absolutely. And I want to touch back on those, because it comes back to the individual, whether it's newspapers, the stories around there, or video. Now, myself and York, we've got a joint client that they've done an awesome job. I recommend, Cameron, if it's okay, can you link their video in the show notes? Because they've done an awesome job around a story around a care home. York led with that video. So do you want to just give an example of the concept of what we've done with that care home?
So this was probably at the beginning of March, wasn't it? No, a bit later than that. But that we basically, we couldn't go to the home. And one of the most difficult things with recording interviews with people is building a human connection and getting them to open up. Because anyone can go in and ask a list of questions. It's fine. You can have a list of 10 questions and ask people. But the real art form is helping them feel comfortable and helping them come out of their shell and helping them forget that you've got a camera crew with you and there's lights and things like that. And I've spent a long time, and accidentally, I think just over time, I got used to kind of doing this, used to finding techniques to help people relax on camera. So having to do this over Zoom was a really interesting additional kind of challenge to the work. And we interviewed a resident, a lady called Molly, and as usual, you have a watch of the video in the show notes. And we talked to her, we talked to her daughter, and we just asked her what's been going on, what's been happening. And the film is 2.5 minutes long, and it's about what happened during lockdown. And it's really interesting because there's an elephant in the room. If you don't talk about it, especially if your home has been affected, if you don't give a nod to what's happened, and the further away we move from the sort of crisis point, the less that this will be necessarily relevant. But it's I think a lot of maybe organizations will be worried about how you find that balance with the message to say everything, mostly everything is fine, but because in most organizations there will be some people who have passed away, and it's something that you've got to really think about how you manage that message from that perspective, or how you pay respect to the people that have suffered from this. But ultimately we need to kind of talk about the hundreds of thousands of people that haven't been affected and have actually had a better quality of life, being in a care home, because they haven't been on their own. They've actually had people communicate with. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been to a few care homes and I've interviewed people, and they're like, I'm just really happy I was here. If I'd not been here, I would have been locked in on my house on my own. And at least here I get to see people, I get food brought to me, I get, and it's not exactly what I want, but it's so much better than being on my own. I really worry about my granddad's 97 and he's been on his own for 3 months, and he's able, and he's still in a position where he's able to look after himself. But it is, that really difficult. It must be really difficult just to be completely isolated like that and not be able to have anybody visit. So, talking to Molly and talking to her daughter, and Molly's picked up how to use Zoom and FaceTime really, really quickly. I think sometimes it's been quite surprising across the different places that I've been, how quickly people you would expect not to be able to use this technology have just really taken to it. I was speaking to a lady yesterday who was saying that her mother's 103, and she was saying that she's doing a video call with her mum, and her mum's trying to adjust her collar, she's saying, I'm just trying to, because it feels so real. So even though it's not exactly what you want, the connection is 80% of the way there. And there was another chap I talked to, and I was like, oh, are you excited to see your daughter soon? He was like, I've been talking to her every day on Zoom, so I'm not really that fast if she comes and visits. We'll just wait till it's completely safe. So actually this technology does get us most of the way there to create that human connection. I think there still is a little bit missing for some people. That's that little bit of human connection. I found running my business is quite difficult over Zoom calls. So my team have come back, and luckily for us, we've got a big office and we can separate everybody, and we're doing sort of shift patterns. But to spend time with people for me and my team is important. But I've sort of slightly lost track of what the question was, Toby, but
it was all around what the story was about, and you mentioned it. So it's about Molly, a resident in a care home, addressing that, we lost loads of friends, across the world, but she's having fun. She mentioned smiling, she's dancing, and the video shows it. And it also has a little testimonial from her daughter. And that's lovely to see. It really does help address concerns. And talking about addressing concerns, I'm a big fan of addressing them directly. And some of the conceptions that people have out there, preconceptions that people have up there, is there enough PPE? And I know during imagery, whether it's on Facebook or video, showing people in the correct PPE makes a huge difference. Also, what's the visiting process? So, things are changing so quickly. So I don't know what, people are allowed to visit care homes at the moment. So, but it was still good to know that you could do Zoom calls. So, and then also issues around isolation and knowing that actually there are visuals of people, doing activities. So that really does make a difference. And it's about marketing to the families that we've got the adequate PPE, you're in great hands, there's a load of positive stories to combat this in whatever form you can. Now, I'm just conscious of time. It only feels like we just got started. I'll probably have to have both of you back again. But I wondered, Adam, what's your thoughts on the future of care homes? How do you think COVID-19 will change how care homes are run, how people consume content and communicate, etc.?
Yeah, look, great question. And I can only speak, the care is obviously down to the care homes. So, we're all here talking about, PR marketing and engagement and all of that. And I love to hear what York was talking about. I took some notes, but one thing struck me as well is the fact that, to have the full camera crew in with all the flashy gear, is a great thing for residents as well. They are on camera, they are, experiencing something that's probably special and unique, and in all likelihood, they've not had that kind of full camera crew over before. So it's a special day for them. They will remember it. And their families will probably remember it. So, I'm kind of thinking, as well as the power of the video that York's been talking about, there is that added element of, you are treating a particular resident in a special particular way. So from a care point of view, there's also that added element, which is something I guess I just wanted to throw in.
I had a point I want to pick up on that. So, over the COVID process, where suddenly everything you do is kind of blown up in front of you, and we've had, it's been quite an emotional time, and I've gone through, and you look at these people that do extremely valuable jobs and extremely valuable in society, and then suddenly we in PR and marketing are slightly potentially outside of that, and I've had a slight sort of, I wouldn't say crisis of identity, where you go, okay, what, how valuable is what we do? How can we help? And I went to a care home last week, and I sat down with a carer who basically, her husband was extremely vulnerable, so she stayed at the care home for 4 weeks. And listening to her tell the story and having having that moment where she could like almost get it off her chest, and it was like a really beautiful moment where she was just like, somebody's listening to me, like somebody's wants to hear my story. It was really powerful.
Just a quick one on that, York. So a lot of people listening will go, okay, video sounds great, but it's a big investment for them. What was the sort of purpose of these videos? Is there like a clear objective that your client had in terms of you're telling these stories about people? Well, what is the end objective? Is it to reassure new business? Is it just to reassure the families, build the brand? Like, what is the core goal?
So the core goal of each, so we're going to every single one of this group sites, so it's Sunrise Senior Living, and we're going around all of the different sites to create a film for each individual site around a huge PR campaign they're doing called Celebrate Care Homes. So, and they want to make this kind of industry wide. So they kind of set the foundation for this campaign, and they want to push this out and kind of talk to the whole industry and get the whole industry on board to basically push this the message that actually we should be celebrating care homes, and that care homes are, you know, the residents, the staff, the families, that it's this big kind of cohesive unit, and that everybody in the industry needs to get behind it. So that you know, the real objective of the videos is to help reassure people that actually it's not what you've read in the national newspaper. You know, if all you did was read the Daily Mail and the Sun, you know, and even the BBC, you know, which, you know, sometimes we feel should maybe be more objective than it is, but we won't get into that. That you would have a really negative perception, and it is about them trying to combat that story. You know, and yes, it works on a local level. You know, it works for the residents. You know, and it's not really, in the grand scheme of things, as far as I'm concerned, very expensive. Like, it's, you know, maybe it's investment of maybe a couple of £1,000s to create something that will last a long time. So I was on a video call for a pre-production meeting with the site that we worked with 5 years ago, and we made a story about a resident. And I was like, oh, hi, how's that doing? Yeah, we made the story about resident. She was like, yeah, that still really works for us now. This is 5 years later. This video is still on their website. People still mention it through the press. Oh, that video of Alan was amazing. Really talk, you know. So that's you know, spent £2,000 on that, and it's lasted 5 years. You know, constantly over and over and over again. And the same thing with the tours. They're not particularly expensive in the grand scheme of things, and they last a long, long time. So I think you know, part of it is addressing that idea that video is a long-term investment, and you spend a couple of £1,000s on an individual video, but it will last you, you know, at least 12 months, if not 2 years. You know, and even if you have a huge refurb of your home, you can then just do a couple of little updates to the video, and, you know, and fill in some gaps. So I think from that perspective, it's yeah, so their objective is part of this overall campaign to just try and help the care home industry combat the sort of negative story, which, you know, I guess this is part of what we're doing, right? We're trying to show people and help them understand that it's not like what you read in the papers.
So I'm just going to put you guys on the spot just quickly. A final thought. So Adam, what's one tip you will say to a care home operator right now, that if you're going to action one thing, what's the one thing that they should do?
I would say make it your goal to be showcased on the a local regional. I mean, this ties in with video. This is essentially like, you know, York goes in there, will do a video, which, you know, as your mentions, will promote your home. My advice would be for every single operator listening is, within the next 6 weeks, make sure that they are pitching their strongest story right now to the local regional BBC or ITV. BBC tends to be better. And making sure that they can get a positive news story about their care home, which is on the BBC regional news. And then you can use that video on your website or from promotional purposes. Okay, you might have to be careful with copyright, but there are ways of moving around that. So that would be my one do, because right now is the time, as I said from the beginning, that the local media are longing to hear about positive stories from care homes. Let me add one more thing, is that care operators that are doing that, as I've said, will be finding that they will be the care home operator that the local BBC calls when they want to know about care homes.
Awesome. And your one tip be for someone to take one action off the back of this video?
One tip, I think, even if you haven't got the budget to do professional video, start doing your own videos. Just start letting your staff, letting your residents talk and make videos, and, you know, get your camera phone and, you know, interview a resident and just say to them, what's it been like? And just, you know, it's quite simple to put this stuff together. You know, put a 1-minute video on Facebook, and that stuff's really, really powerful. And, you know, we've had this whole kind of thing where user generated content suddenly become a completely acceptable form of content, and it's really strong. You know, and you see kind of national adverts from banks and insurance companies with all webcam videos in it, you know, stuff shot on people's phone. You know, a lot of it is pretending to be user-generated content when it's not really. But user-generated content has this real kind of raw honesty about it. And one of the reasons that people use professional videos, because if the quality is so bad that you can't understand what the message is, then you have a problem. But the technology is so good that you can start producing content, and like a local media will pick up if you send a 1-minute video of your residents saying how much of a lovely time they've been having, they'll pick that up, and they're probably more likely to pick that up than they would be if we went in and shot a professional film. So I think you've just got to start being brave and creating content and sending it out there to people and using that, putting it on your Facebook platform, sharing it into local Facebook groups, and letting your residents and your staff and the families tell your story.
Awesome. So if I can add one tip as well, my tip would be to double down on testimonials. During this period when people have concerns, have issues, the story from a family will go down a long way. And whether you're, just getting testimonials on, care.co.uk, whatever it is, or video testimonials of residents, or inviting families onto a Zoom call, recording it and just recording them, doesn't have to be the most glossiest thing. It's actually quite authentic. It really does go a long way in changing perceptions of the care sector and building up the confidence of the general public. So that's all for me. Cameron, over to you.
Yeah, I think it's been a really good episode, really. I think video is such a big subject and it's not really been covered much in the care sector before. So I definitely think we'll have to have the guys on back again and explore it more, because I think you'll agree, Toby, there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to ask today, but it just shows how sort of undiscovered the topic is and how much you can really delve into video, because there's other reasons as well. From a marketing side, video helps us. We can track better metrics, get more data from videos than we can from images. But also every single person on this podcast does video for their business. So it's one of these things that we're not telling you to do something we don't do ourselves. We completely are 100% invested in it ourselves. And also check out everyone's videos. There's great tips York's got on videos. Adam's got his marketing PR videos. And obviously we've got our Tea with Toby and Whiteboard weekly series. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I'll add everything in the show notes that we discussed. And we will see you all in the next Tea with Toby.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Thanks so much.